Hello, and welcome to Psychology Demystified. Today's topic is relevant to you if you are a parent, godparent, step-parent, grandparent, uncle, aunt, teacher, pretty much anyone who interacts with children. And it's all about bonding with children, especially during these trying times. The pandemic has been hard on everyone. The pandemic has also been hard on kids. It's not a surprise that the frequency of negative daily moods increased significantly, especially during lockdown when the whole world shut down. In some of my previous videos, I've talked about how to deal with your anxiety, your frustration, your stress, your fears when it comes to this pandemic. But I haven't actually touched on how to help kids cope with the same things that you are dealing with. So as someone who's a caregiver in any way, these tips that I'm going to mention today should prove beneficial to you in one way or another. The tips I'm actually going to be talking about are called micro connections. And the micro connections that you're going to be making are going to help the children around you, the children you interact with, the children who you have an impact on, to be able to build resilience, especially during this time when things are so uncertain and no one knows whether they're going well or not. The pandemic has been exhausting and it has been a trial for every single family. But the warmth that kids get from us grown-ups can really help in reducing the amount of anxiety and stress that they end up experiencing. The warmth I'm talking about can come in little tiny doses, but they come in little tiny doses often. If you're a caregiver of a child in any way, start by saying a kind word to them as soon as you see them. If you're living in the same home as this child, then start by saying a kind word to them, but also give them a hug as soon as they wake up. If you can, when you can, and whenever you can, read to a child for 10 minutes, because this will bond you in unimaginable ways, especially when you read something that is of key interest to them. The third point may go against all the rules that you've ever come up with. But you know what? This situation that we're in already breaks all the rules. So I'm going to go ahead and say it. Stay up with your child for 20 minutes later than they usually would go to bed, just to be able to watch one of their favorite shows with them. If you're an uncle, an aunt, a grandpa, or a grandma, imagine how many brownie points doing this is going to give you. Whenever you're with this child who you are taking care of, or who you're responsible for, or who you are impacting in some way, see if you can find time to be thankful for all the good things that are happening all around you. Have fun switching around regular house chores and try and predict who's going to win in doing something in the house. For example, who is going to finish putting the plates back in their regular place first. Bet on it and have a race, have a competition. This adds some fun to your day and also minimizes the boredom of a regular chore. And in many ways, it bonds you. And this would work whether you are an uncle, an aunt, a grandpa, a grandma, a parent, or a step-parent. It'll work either way because it's just fun. Even though you already do so much for the children who you work with, who you are responsible for, or your own child, try and see if you can do a good deed for this child. Especially like in this time when all the children are working with electronics in one way or another, the good deed could be simply charging your child's device before the next day of school, because there's a high likelihood that they'll forget, but they'll appreciate this good deed and benefit from it in the same way. Sit down and actually have discussions about how life is going, especially with all the changes. Have deep talks and let them do most of the talking and you do most of the listening. Let the child you're looking after pick a date option out of 3 that you will end up doing with them that they have chosen to do. Write a post-it note with a positive message to the child who you're responsible for looking after. and leave it somewhere where they'll find it, like the kitchen or their pillow, and let it be a positive note that tells them how proud you are of how they are doing. If at any point you're responsible for packing the lunch of a child who's under your care, or you are responsible for picking them up or dropping them off, write a little short, thoughtful note for them so that they can see it when they open up their lunch bag, or when they jump into your car because you're picking them up, or as you go and pick them up from the school gates, or whatever it is. Whatever interaction you're having, let them look forward to something positive and thoughtful from you in terms of a message. Spend time outside the house doing something active, taking a walk, having a bike ride, and just simply sitting outside and having a chat. Play a game of catch or catch the ball with the child who you're responsible for looking after. Just throw a ball back and forth, and sometimes make it a challenge, make it a fun challenge. And what happens is that there are times when just throwing the ball back and forth becomes a conversation that you never even predicted would happen. Kids have been known to open up to adults when something like this is happening, because they're not so focused on the moment and so focused on what they're trying to tell you, because they're semi-distracted by the action of just having fun and throwing a ball. Children are already surrounded by talk of all the things that are going on in the world today that are not necessarily on the positive side. So spend some time talking about the great things that people are doing around the world so that they can still see that there's still some good happening despite all the bad. Play board games and card games together. This brings out your fun side, your competitive side, and allows them to see you in a different mode than what they're used to seeing you in on a regular basis. Watch some fun and funny YouTube clips together. They could be extreme sport like biking down a crazy hill, or just really funny, silly things that you can laugh about together. When you're cooking, if you're cooking, allow the child to help you make dinner or lunch or whatever it is that you're making, because that allows them to learn from you while also having a chat at the same time, while also learning a life skill that they'll use in future. Go out and get something as simple and fun as hot chocolate or ice cream together. Take some time to look through favorite photos together. Because as you do that, you will end up talking about all the fun things that you remember, all the crazy things you remember, all the sad things you remember when those photos were taken. It's just a walk down memory lane. Even if you don't have a creative streak in your body, sit down and create something fun together. There's nothing funnier to a child than realizing sometimes that we can't draw either. Sit down and have a chat and talk to them about the high points of their day and the low points of their day or week, and see what they tell you. Through talk, you will learn so much, and through talk, they will unburden themselves in ways that they needed to and you didn't know that they did. If you see them doing something positive, notice it, recognize it, and definitely acknowledge the fact that they did something positive for someone else on that day. Children all around us are being impacted either directly or indirectly by what's going on around us, which means they get to hear about a loved one or someone else's loved one who is impacted by what's going on in the world right now. So instead of brushing that aside, take some time to send love, thoughts, and even prayers to someone who needs them. Do a puzzle with a child. This takes forever, but it's also fun to try and put all the pieces together and see whether you can actually finish the puzzle at some point, someday. What an achievement. Even though you wouldn't ordinarily do it, try and see if you can say thank you each day for something that they've done. Because in an ordinary situation, they may not need it and you may not see the need to do that. But in this particular situation, it's different. So please try and say thank you to them for something that they've done that day. Find out what music your child wants to listen to. And if it's child appropriate and it's fun to listen to, take time to learn what they love. Take time to learn some of their dances. Take time to do a TikTok video with them if they're old enough. And just take time to bond, because those memories are cherished for a very, very long time. What I have covered in today's video is something from the Gottman Institute called Small Things Often. And it's based on the principle that Successful long-term relationships are created through small words, small gestures, and small acts. So let's all go out and make a difference in the lives of the smaller beings who rely on, who depend on, who look up to, and who are impacted by us and our actions. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to be kind because you don't know what someone is going through. And to you, hugs and kindness always. Bye.